Good afternoon, Workado fans, and welcome back to stunning Las Vegas, Nevada. We're here midway through day one of our 2 days of live coverage of World of Workato. My name's Savannah Peterson, here bringing you all the great stories from the show floor with Rob Strechay. Rob, we've had a really great start to the day.
We have. Very strong start. Very, as we talked about, it's hot outside, but it's hotter in here, talking about AI agents and really genies in particular, but getting to understand what the customers are bringing for their needs and how Workado is really solving for that.
Yeah, and the executives and the team at Workado were telling us before we started here that the whole week was going to be about showing and not telling. And that's why we're so excited to have Al from SentinelOne joining us for this segment. Thank you, Al. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
This is exciting. So I'm sure the audience is familiar, but even if they're not, SentinelOne, premier cybersecurity company.
Yep.
Been around for a while, impressive market cap. You've been there for 4 years. Tell us a little bit about what brought you here to World of Workato in Vegas.
Yeah, no, just excited to be working with Workado. We've got a great use case around sales quoting and making our sales more productive. So one of the things that I think is so cool about Workado is they really do work in lockstep with their partners and their community members like you and your team. I know that you had an instrumental impact in the CPQ Genie, the configure, price, and quote Genie that you worked on with them. How long were you working on that? What was the process like? And how did you select Workado as the right partner to help you build out that tool? Yeah, no, so we had this idea about 4 months ago.
Oh my gosh, not that long ago.
Yeah, it's pretty recent.
That's amazing.
So we've got a lot of challenges with our quoting process. If anyone's done CPQ before, it's a slog.
Yes.
I'm not going to lie. And we had this idea like, hey, why can't Gen I help with CPQ quoting?
Yeah.
And I actually got a lot of pushback initially from certain, won't name names, but like certain groups in the company is like, hey, it's a grand vision, but it can't be done. Like, we don't think you can do it, right? Like, go focus on some other stuff. So me, wanting a challenge, I said, hey, I think we can. Called up some of my buddies at Workado, because we'd been a Workado shop for about a year, but we hadn't done any agentic stuff. And they just jumped in with us.
Yeah.
So that's so cool. So now that this is out in the wild, are those people who were maybe a little skeptical very impressed with what you were able to do?
They are, right? Now it's still early days, right? So we just launched out a pilot. We do have people using it. It is early, but I think the skeptics are like, whoa, wow, actually that can be done. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think again, because you're looking at all of the enterprise applications that SentinelOne has, and you're really focused across that. And I think as one of those customers, you're sitting there trying to figure out what is kind of not only the business impact, but the business results of doing these core type of genies that they're putting out there. What did you see as kind of your KPIs for calling this successful?
Yeah, no, we've got a very simple goal. Cut the time to quote in half. That's our goal, right?
Straightforward.
Yeah.
And not casual either. That's pretty significant.
Yeah, cut it in half. And we've got some other things going on to help with that as well, but Sales Genie is a big part of that.
Yeah. So were there any challenges or anything that you found to be a lot easier than you were expecting when you went through this process?
So again, if you've done CPQ before, right, everyone's got a very customized Salesforce system, so you can't just plug it in, unfortunately. So we've had to deal with kind of unwinding a lot of crazy things that we've done in our Salesforce. That's probably the biggest challenge, right? The technology has been pretty straightforward, I would say.
So as you look at kind of the success of CPQ and knowing it's early days still, are there other organizations have seen that, or other things that you said, hey, now we can go and apply this X? Do you see applicability for the genies beyond this one?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So our HR team really got on board, our people team, so we did a career coaching genie.
Oh, cool.
Which are actually using this cycle during our spotlight performance reviews.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah, that's definitely starting to pick up as well.
What's the reception like, Ben, within your team? Anytime you're adopting new tech, it can always be a little crunchy, but beyond that, there's an added layer, I think, of fear when it comes to agentic adoption and what that might mean.
Yeah.
Performance reviews, an emotional process.
Yeah.
Well, how's the team responded?
I think not as much pushback as you would think, right? I think SentinelOne in general is a very AI-forward company. Like, we were doing AI before it was kind of popular.
Right.
So I think everyone kind of gets it. It's not so bad, actually.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And what do you think are some of the main benefits you're going to get from leveraging this across the business and starting from the core and making its way out?
I think just quick wins. Like I said, we're starting with sales efficiency, starting to see some results there, getting really good feedback from our stakeholders, and then we build on that.
Are your stakeholders broader than just SentinelOne? Because I mean, I would assume you have other partners out there selling your software and your services. How did you take that into account as you went through?
Yeah, so phase two, right?
Yeah.
We kind of got to get our act together internally first.
Right.
But absolutely, like once we nail that internally, we want to extend that to partners.
Yeah. And it's when you talk about CPQ and cutting it, in half and kind of that's a massive order of magnitude. And I think people, when they're waiting for a quote, if you're a customer of SentinelOne, you want that turnaround to be. Yeah. Was that something that you just knew, or you had you'd partnered with the business on, and knowing that, hey, I mean, we've implemented CPQ in our own business and we know what a slog it is, getting the data right and all of the different things that goes and unwinding. Was that you partnering with the business and saying, hey, this seems to be if you could reduce this by 25, 50%, how much more productive would you be? Is that part of what the thinking went into?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was the discussion we had with our executives and our stakeholders with RevOps, and it's just the reality is there's a lot of pain around that process today. And so that was kind of the key big metric we wanted to focus in on.
And everybody always wants to do it faster.
Of course.
And what a great example. Do you think that the success of the CPQ Genie and what you're doing with the performance and HR side of things right now will allow you to deploy and implement other Genies across the organization?
Absolutely. Yeah. Got to get some quick wins. We're also doing an IT Genie, so that's another one that we have in flight as well.
Great. Yeah. Well, how when you look at that, are you taking it process by process and well-defined processes that you understand?
Yep.
Or how do you go into, I would say, building your roadmap of what Genies you're going to go into?
Yeah, so it's where we have business buy-in, we've got engagement from our stakeholders, that's a big part of it, then ultimately the business outcome, right? And what's the actual ROI?
So just to double click on that, if you were going to, people who are in your shoes at other companies, and you were going to go down and say, hey, here's how I recommend you approach this, because this is how you can get that buy-in, this is how you collect. What would be kind of those learnings that you have that you would, want to impart on them?
Yeah, I think go back to basics. I mean, I think there's this kind of feeling that like, okay, just throw some AI out there and everything will magically,
put a little AI on it. Yeah.
be magic and perfect. And we all know as IT professionals, that's just not reality, right? But like I even from some of our stakeholders got that, like, hey, just throw it out there and be done with it, right? So, that's not going to work. We all know that, right? So just like any IT project, spend time with the stakeholders, get the feedback. You will definitely learn from talking to the end customer use cases that you didn't think of. Like in our case, we started with sales quoting. We found out like, hey, they're like, oh, wow, I can update an opportunity next steps from my phone, right? We didn't even think of that use case, but that's actually turned out to be just as helpful as the actual quoting. Or, I was just talking to another CIO, and I looked up how much we've engaged with him in all of our outreach right from my phone, right? And I actually didn't think of that use case. I just did it on the fly. It actually worked, by the way. But, getting that feedback is huge.
Well, and it's real time where you are. We're talking about bringing Genies and agentic to the core here, but you're describing a wonderful byproduct of that at the edge, which is being able to have that information at your fingertips no matter where you are milling around the show floor. It's a pretty compelling use case. I mean, we've all logged into Salesforce CRM for a long time, and not exactly the most intuitive cell phone.
But I think to your point is as well, it's getting the buy-in. If you can make a salesperson's job easier and make them more productive, that had to factor in, because not only the time to quote, but like you said, where you're at and meeting them where they're at so that they can turn it around, which then helps your customers out as well. And that math probably not as straightforward, but when you look at it, do you see that as people go down this path like you have, that it's like you said, hey, we have a version 2, and are you chunking up these next set where you're saying, here's where we're going to start, and we're going to put this path together and crawl, walk, run with these genies on those processes, and you're working with those stakeholders.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think based on the feedback, we're getting so much feedback about all these additional things people want to see, like, hey, can Sales Genie give me whether my customer is in compliance or not, right? Which today is a very manual process. So all those are part of our roadmap and in the hopper.
That's exciting. I can imagine there's a lot of momentum building. Lots of other companies and people in general, as they embark on this Genie or agentic journey, I struggle with where to start. It sounds like you, due to necessity and clarity of focus, you knew where to start with a CPQ challenge immediately. And you've mentioned quick wins, you've mentioned customer feedback, community feedback. What else would you advise companies who are in this earlier adoption stage?
Yeah, I mean, definitely start. It's a tricky one, right? Because some people say start small. We didn't actually start small because CPQ is not an easy use case.
And it's a bit of a bear of a challenge.
Exactly, right? So I didn't really take that advice, but we started where the most pain was, right? And where we had the most buy-in and the most attention from our staff. That's what we did.
So you would advise that. I love that because we heard on the keynote stage today the encouragement to aim high, because genies will achieve as high as you can dream, essentially, as long as you're willing to build out that process. So maybe it doesn't have to be start small. I like that a lot.
And I think you mentioned it, but you were able to start because of, they announced their 28 different genies that were, kind of the core genies. Did you see that it was easy because they had a genie that was somewhere you could already par baked, to use a cake analogy here, but one of the layers was already, and you were already using the orchestration layer. So this was, hey, I can extend this because I can get at the data, I can get at these different integrations. Was that part of the metrics that went into
Absolutely, right? So I would say it got us 60% there.
Wow.
And the 40% was all the tricky stuff on our side and all the complexities that we've added over time, quite frankly, right? But like what was already there out of the box, 60%, that looking up a contact use case, which actually hadn't even tested until 2 hours ago, that worked, was already there.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Working in cybersecurity, data protection and trust has got to be mission critical to everything that you do. What helped empower your confidence? I know you'd been a Workado shop for about a year, but what helped empower that confidence to take this step? I mean, sales data can be a little...
No, we've got a very rigorous InfoSec process. We are not, we don't just let in any vendor. We actually had some other vendors in this space before that weren't enterprise grade, which we replaced with Workado. So we did all of our homework and vetting, and we're happy.
That's great to hear that you're happy.
Yeah, and I think just building off of that, when you start to look at this, and they talked about it, even Carter was talking about it from Workado kind of perspective off the main stage, there was, hey, we're setting up these guidelines and guardrails so that others can go and build. Are you looking to, as you gain more experience with this and with the genies, are you looking to help enable other parts of the organization to build their own genies as well?
Yeah, so in parallel, we are doing a citizen developer program.
Great.
So we've got some folks, for example, from our SE organization using Workado now. That is definitely a big part of our strategy. Yeah, because we can't do it all.
Right.
Like we're one IT group, but there's a lot of demand out there.
Well, and to your point, you don't know how people are going to use them, or the use case like the cell phone you mentioned earlier, until it's out in the wild.
That's right.
Until you see that community demand. That's the beauty of diversity of thought. So I think that's really critical. Al, I'm curious. You've made a lot of progress, clearly, in the last 4 months working on this. When we're at World of Workato in 2026, back here in Las Vegas, what do you hope to be able to say then that you can't yet say today?
So I want to be able to say that we actually did cut quoting time in half.
Yes.
Right? Like we achieved that metric. And then we took on all these other use cases. Like we did something in customer success. I was pretty excited about the IT license genie, which is a pain point today. Would love to do that as well. Show that we reduced our spend by $2 million.
Yeah, I love the whole, you do this and you get the Amex gift card, the carrot that incented people as a little token to do the right thing as part of that. And because that must be one of the things that you saw in that same demo where it was, hey, I'm involving the end user who's actually going in there, and they know their work better than I do. And they're the ones actually going and doing that licensing removal process.
Yeah, no, that one resonated with me because that's kind of part of my job is I'm like manually policing all of that, which I don't have time to do. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm not doing a great job at it. So I would love to have that automated.
Okay, so building on that, final question for you. Putting on your personal hat instead of your SentinelOne professional hat. If you could wave a magic wand and have a genie that did something for you to make your life easier, what would that be?
Keep my wife happy.
That is...
That's a smart man.
happy wife, happy life. That's what I would wish for, to answer your question.
I love that. What's your wife's name?
Erin.
Erin, let's say hi to Erin. Hello, Erin.
Hi, honey.
Hopefully Al's making you happy today. If nothing else, he's making us happy here on this stage. Al, this has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.
And Rob, always a pleasure. Would you give Kristen an AI genie or a genie to make her happy?
Maybe. No, of course I would.
I tried, Kristen.
Yes.
I tried. And while we're at it, I would love to hear what personal genie you would make for yourself in the comments on these videos that we're pumping out here. World of Workato, midway through day one of our 2 days of live coverage in Las Vegas, Nevada. My name is Savannah Peterson. You're watching theCUBE, the leading source for enterprise tech news.